swore affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, please?
Sir, I do.
All right. Once you get seated and comfortable, can you state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please?
My name is John H. Lightbody, L-I-G-H-T-B-O-D-Y.
Prosecutor.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us where you're currently employed?
I currently own an investigation firm. I'm the Chief Investigator and President of Find the Cause Investigations, a firm I opened up 4 years ago.
Okay. And Find the Cause Investigations, what's the nature of the investigations that you guys most commonly conduct?
Fire origin and cause investigations, fire suppression strategies and tactics, as well as code, building and fire codes.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention back to like November, December 2018. Where did you work there then?
At that time, I was an investigator doing fire origin and cause investigations for James F. Valentine and Associates.
Okay. Now, I guess it's safe to assume that at some point you left there and you started your own business.
Correct. In 2022. Okay. I was with his firm for 17 years.
Before I go any further, I'd just like to show you something that's being marked as S343. Ask you if you recognize that document.
I do.
What is it?
This is my CV.
Okay, what's a CV, just so we understand?
My curriculum vitae, which outlines my work history, as well as my educational background, predominantly related to this particular one, is for fire investigations.
Now, to be clear, I guess at some point you were asked to become involved in an investigation at 27 Tilton Drive in Ocean Township?
Yes, I was.
And who actually asked you to become involved?
I was contacted by Chubb Insurance Company, Mr. Steve Costanzo.
Now, back when you were working for Valentine and Associates, and even currently with your own business, is it common for you to do work for insurance companies?
Yes, they're my primary clients.
Okay, so to be clear, were you or were you not involved in a criminal investigation at 27 Tilton Drive in Ocean Township?
I was not.
Okay. Now, that being said, do you have any prior law enforcement experience?
I do, sir.
Okay, and can you tell us for how long and where you worked?
I worked at the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office. I retired as a detective sergeant. I was the architect and built the Arson task force there in the Major Crimes Unit from 1988 until 2004. Prior to that, I was a career firefighter at the Naval Air Engineering Center, Lakehurst, now known as Joint Base McGuire-Dix, for 8 years from 1980 to 88.
Okay, so from 1980 to 1988, your primary job responsibility was what?
Full-time firefighter, career firefighter.
And is it fair to say that you had to get some training to be able to do that?
Quite a bit, yes.
Can you talk about that initial training?
In that aspect of my career, I was involved and am involved in all the disciplines of the fire service. So it's fire prevention, protection, suppression, and investigation. In that particular point of my career, I was in the fire suppression aspect. I joined the Eastover Volunteer Fire Company at 16 years old, and I took a ton of classes, and when I was 18, I was appointed as a firefighter at Navy Lakehurst because of that education that I had. So from there, it was primarily a fire suppression strategies and tactics area, and I worked in the crash fire rescue crew, aircraft crash fire rescue. And that's when I began, in that 8 years, taking classes in fire origin and cause investigation, as well as inspector's licenses.
Okay, at some point thereafter, did you attempt to transition that investigative training into law enforcement?
I did.
And is that when you joined the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office?
In 1988, yes.
And
Excuse me.
during the course of your time at the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, where was really the focus of your investigation? What units?
At the prosecutor's office, I was hired specifically for then the arson unit in 1988 under Sergeant Larry Wilson in major crimes. And then subsequently, when he retired, I was appointed as a sergeant, and they gave me the opportunity to develop and build an arson task force, which was a task force, a multi-agency task force for the investigation of fire and arson matters. as well as environmental crimes.
Sorry. On your CV, which is marked as S343 in front of you, do you document, the majority or the most important investigative courses that you took with respect to fire investigation, cause and origin?
In this particular CV, I do.
Okay, can you just give us a summary of the investigative trainings that you had completed?
So, in this particular piece, there's 110 classes. I'll give you some of the highlights. I attended the DCJ Academy 90-hour arson class, which was put on by the state of New Jersey, and subsequently, after in 1998, I became an instructor, lead instructor for that class. In addition, I went to the FBI fire arson class in Quantico, Virginia. I attended between 5 and 10 international conferences for the International Association of Arson Investigators, and probably 20 to 30 for the state chapter of that same association. Extensive investigation in origin and cause, building construction, hazardous materials as it relates to that, and fire suppression classes as it relates to fire origin and cause investigations and the effects suppression have on our investigations.
So fire dynamics and what other people do, like firefighters do before investigations start. Understanding that, is that important?
Very important, yes.
And also, I think you talked a little bit about building construction. Can that sometimes be important?
It's extremely important because you can develop a theory as to how fire spreads. In the scientific world, there is a whole science to fire, in how it spreads, how it moves, how it's deflected, and how it ends up from point A to B, C, and D. There's variable ways that happens, and building construction is one of the primary factors in that concern.
Now, as far as any certifications in the field of fire investigation, do you have any?
I do.
Okay, can you tell us about that?
I'm what's identified as by the International Association of Arson Investigators as a certified fire investigator. That is a extremely difficult position to get. In this state of New Jersey, I think there's 50, maybe 60 of us. Also, I'm a certified fire and explosion investigator through the National Association of Explosion Investigations, NAFI fire investigators, and a certified fire investigation instructor, as well as a level 1 fire instructor.
Now, working predominantly on the civil end of fire investigation, I mean, is that accurate based on what you do now on the civil end?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have more opportunity as a result of the civil end than you did, let's say, when you worked as a criminal investigator with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office?
Currently, yes. 99.9% of my job is civil matters. I do get called into criminal stuff, and I may evaluate it and not get involved.
Okay. Now, for criminal investigations, there's not always a reason, if the fire is not suspicious, for police to investigate. Is that fair?
Agreed.
Okay. Now, from the civil context, your job is to come in and make a determination for the insurance company, right?
In the civil side of the case, it's more for identifying potential subrogation matters, and what that's for is, say, if a product fails and causes fire damage or damage to a building, and one insurance company insures the owner, somebody insures the product, we pursue against the product failure for subrogation to recover any monies that are spent. And on the same side, liability, say a plumber works on a house and he causes a fire, you defend those people if you can, or those incidents if you can.
Now, any professional associations that you hold?
Yes.
Okay, can you just tell us what those are?
I'm currently a life member of the New Jersey chapter of the International Association of Arson Investigators. I belong to the International Association of Arson Investigators probably for a good 35 years. I'm a life member of the Ocean County Fire Chiefs Association, as I was a past fire chief in Toms River and a past district fire chief in Toms River. And I'm a life member in the Ocean County Firemen's Association and several others.
Now, have you ever had the opportunity to be offered as an expert in Superior Court in New Jersey in the field of fire investigation or origin and cause determination?
I have.
Do you know approximately how many times?
Approximately a dozen times in the criminal and civil matters, both Superior Court of New Jersey and the federal courts.
At this time, Judge, the state would offer John Lightbody as an expert in the field of fire investigation and origin and cause determination.
Any objection?
No, Judge, thank you. We are satisfied with Mr. Lightbody's experience and qualifications.
All right, thank you. You heard me read this twice already. I don't want you to sit here and say, did he forget that he read it already? It's my job to make sure that I remind you every time that there is a new expert that may come in on this case, so I'm just going to do that for you now. So here we go. As a general rule, witnesses can only testify to facts known by them. This rule ordinarily does not permit to be received as evidence the opinion of a witness who is not testifying as an expert. However, an exception to this rule exists in the case of an expert witness who may give their opinion as to any matter in which they are versed, which is material to the case. In legal terminology, an expert witness is a witness who has some special knowledge, skill, experience, or training that is not possessed by an ordinary juror, and who thus may not be able to assist, who may be able to assist the jury in understanding the evidence presented and to determine the facts in this case. You are not bound by such an expert's opinion, but you should consider each opinion and give it its weight as you deem it should be entitled, whether that be great or slight, and you may reject it. In examining each opinion, you should consider the reasons given for it, if any, and you may also consider the qualifications and credibility of the expert. It is always within the special function of the jury to determine whether the facts on which the answer or testimony of an expert is based actually exist. The value or weight of the opinion of the expert is dependent upon and is no stronger than the facts on which it is based. In other words, the probative value of the opinion will depend upon whether, from all of the evidence in the case, you find those facts are true. You may, in fact, determine from the evidence in this case that the facts that form the basis of the opinion are true, not true, or true only in part, and in light of those findings, you should decide what effect such determination has upon the weight to be given to the opinion of the expert. Your acceptance or rejection of the expert's opinion will depend, therefore, to some extent, on your findings as to the truth of the facts that you rely upon. You and you alone are the sole fact finders in this case. You must be persuaded solely by the evidence presented at trial when determining whether the state has satisfied its burden. As the sole judges of the facts, you are to determine the credibility of the various witnesses as well as the weight to be afforded to their testimony to determine whether the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt all elements of the crimes charged. So with that, we'll go on to the questioning. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lightbody, I'm going to show you what's been marked as S-344.
You recognize that? I do.
Okay, what is that?
This is a copy of my report I authored on behalf of Chubb Insurance for them in this matter.
Now, you have that in front of you, and you also have your CD in front of you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you need to refer to S-344, that report, if you could just let us know, that would be great. Now, I want to ask you about an investigation conducted at 27 Tilton, obviously, okay? Now, you talked about how you were hired on the civil end, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, during the course of your investigation, did you have any contact with law enforcement?
I did.
Okay. Why was that?
Well, generally, before I go to any type of fire, I contact the local authorities and determine whether the scene is accessible by the private sector, that would be me, or any of our people, so as not to interfere with any ongoing investigation they may be performing.
Do you need to correspond with law enforcement in order to actually go on the property?
I do not.
Okay. What if the scene is being held by law enforcement still?
I would defer to them, so as not to interfere or contaminate anything they're doing with their investigation.
And during the course of your investigation, did you at any time work with any others as part of your team?
On my team, I retained Michael Plick of Plick and Associates. He is a mechanical engineer, as well as Mr. Martin Grant, who works for Mr. Plick, who is an evidence technician.
Now, you said Mr. Plick is an engineer, correct?
Yes.
Now, do you often utilize the services of like experts, so to speak, in fields like electricity or engineering?
Yes.
Now, is fire investigation, or can fire investigation be collaborative?
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you, with respect to your overall investigation at 27 Tilton, did you use a specific method?
I did. I used what's known as the scientific method. It's a methodology in how we perform fire investigations.
Okay. Now, is that the scientific method pursuant to NFPA 921? Is that something that you learned during the course of your training in
Yes.
fire investigations?
Yes, sir.
Is that also something that you teach in fire investigations?
I do.
Okay. Because you said you had been for a period of time the lead instructor at the Attorney General's Office fire course, correct?
That's correct.
Now, can you just tell us what that scientific method consists of?
So in general, it's a collaborative effort to structurally perform your investigation. So there's 7 points to this whole thing, and how it goes is you recognize that there's a problem that has to be addressed. That's step 1. And then the problem here is you identify the problem, and that's step 2. We have a structure fire in Ocean Township at Mr. and Mrs. Caneiro's home. That's step 2. Step 3, we begin to gather empirical data through interviews, contacts, fire scene examination, photographs, documents, whatever we do when we do our investigation. We gather that data. And once we gather the data, we then look at, we assemble the data and we examine it to see where we're at with this. And step 4 becomes developing a hypothesis as to what potentially could have been the cause or contributing cause to the fire and the spread of fire. And then subsequently, we test that hypothesis. Once we test the hypothesis, we come to an opinion as to what the cause and the potential spread of the fire was.
I think you mentioned steps 1 and 2 are kind of simple, correct?
Yeah,
You know, we have a problem in that there was a structure fire, right?
that's correct.
And step 2 is I got hired to go investigate, right?
That's step 2.
Okay. Step 3, we talk about doing an investigation, bless you, and gathering empirical data, right?
That's correct.
Can you tell us how you start to do that in this case?
Well, generally, mine starts from the minute I get the case, as soon as if it's a daytime call and I can contact the local authority. I start calling them again to affirm that I'm not going to interfere in anything. And then I go to the site and I conduct witness interviews of those who may or may not be there. If they're not there, I can't talk to them. But generally, I meet with a family member or an owner of the home or the policyholder and conduct an interview as to the circumstances surrounding the event. Not only the fire, but the circumstances previous to that. I.e., did somebody work on the house in the last 10 years? Were there any problems with electrical and mechanical devices? Does anybody smoke candles, incense, etc.? And we try and get those circumstances known before I go in to conduct my scene examination.
Can you start with who lives there, right?
Yes.
Could you also gather some data on the internet or anywhere else regarding, who owns the property, what year the home was built, and the like?
Correct. My office does a search for the structure, and hopefully most times we can get the type of construction, the square footage, when it was last purchased, etc. In this particular case, I came up with the construction year, the square footage, I think over 4,000 square feet, and the home itself.
Now, can I just put up S1 B, please? And can I, now there's a PowerPoint that was put together for your testimony, correct?
Yes.
And it was based upon photos taken by whom?
By whom did you say?
Yeah, who took the photos?
I did.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you were recognize the contents of the photos in that PowerPoint?
I will.
Okay. Now, I just want to show you basics. I want to show you slide 25, please. Can you just tell me what that shows?
This is the front of the Caneiro house, which faces west to, what's the street here? Tilton Drive. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Now, that is the, you can see that that's basically the west side or the front side or the A side of the house, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you take note of any damage to that area of the home?
I did. I note as we do damage assessment as well as the lack of damage, because that becomes important to us as we do our investigation. And we could probably talk about that shortly.
Sure. So, is part of your initial assessment, is it exterior based?
Yes,
You walk the house and try to make any observations? Is there damage here? Is there not damage there? Those sorts of things?
that's correct.
And then eventually you go where?
Into the house.
Okay. I just want to go to the north side of the house, or the B side of the structure, and I'm going to show slide 26. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Okay, what does that show?
So this is the north side of the house. You can see that the garage area is a two-car garage. It's a one-story in height, and it's attached to the two-story residential portion of the home. What I note here is that the gable, where the roof comes together, that little window, is there a pointer or something?
There's a stylus up there, a little pen, that if you wanted to mark what you're talking about, we'll preserve it before you undo it.
No.
I'm not good like this.
Exactly. Use this point.
I don't think I need to draw.
Yeah, so that's off point.
If you draw, then everyone will see what you're talking about, so if you wanted to...
So I just draw this?
There you go.
Okay.
Why did you circle that, sir?
Because I wanted the jury, if they don't know what a gable wall is and a gable vent, that is a gable vent in a roof system. It's ventilation for the attic of the home. You'll note there that there is soot damage coming out from the attic because smoke and heat did get into the attic. So that vented out of the north side.
Okay. Now, can I have a slide? Can we preserve that, sorry?
26.1, it's S1D.
So once you hear that print, if we do that again, you could just hit that undo button,
Okay.
and it'll go away. Have slide 27, please. And just, could you tell us what you're looking at here?
This is a combination of a photo of the north side and the east side of the structure. The photo is taken from the north facing south. This particular photo, you see much better. On the bottom left side of the garage, you'll see a fire pattern. It's at ground level, and it causes damage to the door jamb of the garage, the door of the garage, and the ground and the underside of the garage door.
So what you circled there, was that an area of damage that you were able to identify based upon your exterior survey of the residence?
I did.
Okay. And again, is that something that you're going to further investigate as you continue with your investigation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we could preserve that.
27.1.
That's slide 28. And sir, can you tell us what that shows right there?
It's a close-up view of the previous photo showing the fire damage to the door jamb and the garage door and the ground and the underside of the garage door itself.
And then slide 29, please. What do we see there?
Additional view focusing more on the door jamb, displaying fire damage to the jamb and the door again.
And based upon your observations only at that point in time, were you able to deduce anything about the door jamb there, the fire patterns, or anything of the like?
It's at ground level. It burns up and out from there. It's pretty isolated, but more importantly, there's no electrical or mechanical devices in that area which could have caused or contributed to this fire pattern or caused the fire at this location.
Now, based upon what you just said, you just said that there's evidence of fire damage, correct?
Yes,
Then you said there's no electrical or there's no cigarettes burned out over there. At that point in time, just based upon that information alone, do you draw an ultimate conclusion or do you do something else?
I don't draw a conclusion to that yet because I haven't seen the rest of the house, and I don't have the rest of the knowledge of what I have to look at. that will be included in the totality of my conclusion later. Again, because fire does travel in different ways, and I want to make sure that this isn't a fire that communicated from somewhere else somehow. So there's no conclusion yet on this, although it's certainly a point that needs to be addressed.
Okay. So it's something that you kind of take note of, and then you continue to go on with your investigation.
That's correct.
And as part of that investigation continuing, do you go to the east side of the residence?
I do. Everything I do is clockwise.
Now, can I have slide 30, please? And what are we looking at there?
This is an overall view of the east side of the house. Strike that. Yeah, east side. I'm sorry, yes. East side of the house prior to any boards being removed, as I found it on November 24th was when I first went there. So this is what I encountered when I got there.
And I'll ask you an obvious question, but were you able to identify where the majority of the damage on the rear of the home was located?
Yes, that's identified as the southeast corner of the home.
Okay. Can I have slide 31? You recognize that?
I do.
Okay, what does that show?
This is a close-up view of fire damage to the exterior of the home. The fire burning from ground level up. The boards are there covering some windows and a window well. And the fire communicated to the underside of the roof system, what's known here as the soffit, and communicated into the structure at multiple points from this area.
Now, there's some plywood in that photo, obviously, right?
Are you the new plywood?
The new plywood.
Yes.
And that was put there to cover windows, right?
Cover windows and provide security on the home, yes.
Now, obviously, based upon when you took this photo, this was at some point days after the fire. Is that accurate?
Yes, I took this 4 days after the fire.
Have slide 32, please. Oh, sorry.
Undo?
As soon as you hear the printer. Slide 32, what's that show?
Slide 32 are the plywood boards removed, obviously, and what you see here, folks, is you have a gas meter here. It's a gas meter set. The meter's still intact. It's still there. There's a window well right here, if I may. I'll just do this for you. That's a window well. The well is the hole in front of the window, and the window enters into the basement. Above that, these windows are on the first floor. They enter into a living room in the east wall. And then above this, you'll see what appears to be almost new plywood. That's actually a piece of plywood that was installed because it appears there was a window there. Behind that plywood is a walk-in closet. And then to the right, you'll see the new plywood here. This is the bathroom window, which was boarded up as well.
Before we preserve, that's fine. Preserving print is fine. But are you able to determine when you take this photograph and observed it a few days after the fire, anything about fire patterns?
Yes.
Okay, can you talk about that?
So when we recognize fire patterns, fire traditionally burns up and out. Okay, so that's why when you're told to crawl in smoke, it's all rising above you. So is the heat. In this particular case, it'll burn up and out. Fire will burn up and out until it's deflected by a horizontal surface. In this courtroom, it would deflect across the ceiling once it hits the ceiling. So that redirects the fire, as we talked about fire spread before. So in addition, there's what's known as a V pattern, the letter V. Now this is more of a U pattern because it's pretty spread out right here.
I'll get rid of this one and print it again.
Let's not print until after it's done.
So traditionally, the base to a V pattern or U pattern is what's known as the point of fire origin. So as you can see in this photo, the fire was later determined to originate in this window well in the ground area there. It burned up and out. It communicated on the vinyl impression sidings, which allowed it to continue to burn vertically. So you see how this burns from here. It goes up this way, and the reason why it turns left here and then right over here is because we do what? We hit a horizontal surface, and that is the soffit. So once that soffit's penetrated, sorry about that, once the soffit's penetrated, it allows the fire to enter into the attic. This particular fire, I can look at it and bring the fire all the way down to the ground level and show that the fire originated at ground level.
Now, two things. I think you talked about a point of origin or an area of origin that was depicted in that photo, correct?
Yes.
Now, based upon everything you said, you seem to be able to identify that with that photo. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Now, do you draw your ultimate conclusion, though, at that point in time?
No.
Okay. And that's going to be at the end, right?
So this is a suspected area of origin, subsequent point of origin, and that has to be identified once we determine, so let me just, if you don't mind, once we determine where the fire originates. So we do an investigation, we determine the area of fire origin. And in this particular case, it's on the outside of the house right here. And then the point of fire origin is later determined. Once we determine that, we determine if there's any electrical, mechanical, any other heat devices that could have caused or contributed to the cause of this fire. In this particular case, we would probably looked at improper discarding of smoking material or other heat sources that may have been there.
Now, as part of this investigation, I think we could preserve it now. Thank you.
32.1.
Now, I'm going to show slide 33. I'm going to do that.
So just hold it down for 2 seconds.
Yes.
If you hit it a bunch of times, it'll eventually. Sometimes you have to hit it more than once.
Yeah, that's not my fault, that's not a drawing. Is it?
We switched slides. We just get rid of it. Sorry.
So I'm showing you now slide 33. I'm going to ask you whether or not you examined or investigated that basement window.
I did.
Okay. And how do you go about doing that, and what did you see?
In this particular photo, oftentimes when we deal with area of origin and point of origin, there are variables to this, but I will tell you that oftentimes the most extensive amount of fire damage and deepest and heaviest charring is normally consistent with the longest area of fire burn. Now, there's variables on that. In this case, there's not a lot of variables. So what I'm showing you here is, you'll notice on the plywood right here, the sheathing is consumed. It's not consumed anywhere else. So that would tend to suggest to me that it burned there for a longer period of time. If you also notice in construction, this is called a double plate. So you have two 2x4s that form the base of a wall system. There's a bottom plate, which is the lower one, and a top plate on top of that. This fire penetrated there into the wall system, consuming the plywood, and caused heavy charring on the 2x4 bottom plates. As you move away from this area, you'll notice that the fire damage, although extensive, is of a much lesser degree in comparison to that.
Okay, we could preserve that.
33.1.
I have slide 35. Now, you talk about progression, extensive damage versus significant damage, but maybe of a lesser extent. Can you talk about what you see in slide 35?
I see the fire communicating, and on the previous slide, I didn't point it out, I apologize. You could note that the underside of this windowsill, these windowsills, had fire damage to the underside of them. So you remember, if fire's burning up and out, it's underneath it burning up, attacking this ledge. It's the same thing on that windowsill. So that's what occurred here. It continued to communicate up, and at the same time, it penetrated the windows on the first floor and entered the structure on the first floor within the living room. It continued to burn up and out until it hit that soffit system, and then continued to burn horizontally to the left and right until such time it penetrates that soffit and enters the attic.
And when we talk about penetrating the soffit, entering the attic, is that ultimately how you made the observations above the garage?
Yes.
Vent?
That's, once it enters the attic, that cavity, called the attic, fills with smoke and heat, and it's pressurizing, so it starts to push out. And in this case, it pushed out on the north side gable vent.
Now, just briefly, the areas, did you identify areas where the fire penetrated the interior of the home?
I did.
Okay, and where were those areas?
Based on my observations and fire patterns, the areas were located first in the attic, the basement window at ground level. The fire got into the basement, and then the first floor windows into the living room, and then subsequently it got into the attic via the soffit, and it also entered the master bathroom window.
Okay, so while you're making observations on the exterior of the home, do you examine at any point the gas line?
I do.
Okay, and where was that specifically located?
Well, the concern here was that the gas meter was directly adjacent to what was identified as a point of origin. So during this investigation, it was critical for us to, we used the process of elimination to consider that as a heat source and/or a fugitive gas that might have leaked and found an ignition source and ignited this fire. So that's where our engineers came in, and collectively we did gas line testing. But this particular meter is directly adjacent to this window well.
Now, did you participate in other testing, like the gas testing by the engineers?
Yes, I was a part of it, yeah.
Now, I want to just show you slide 40. Let me ask you if you recognize slide 40.
I do. That's the gas meter located on the east side of the house at the south corner.
And what do we see atop the gas meter?
Melted vinyl siding on top of the gas meter.
Does that play a role, or does that mean anything to you as a fire investigator?
Well, as I look at it, I identify that predominantly, although it's damaged, it's intact over the meter. So my consideration here is if I had a gas leak at this meter and it ignited, I probably would not have, more than likely not have any intact siding on top of that meter.
Now, on the exterior, continuing with other potential sources, things that you would need to eliminate in order to draw a conclusion, did you find something called a mist-away system?
I did.
And what is that?
A mist-away system was located on the south side of the house, and what drew my attention to that is, on a comparative value, we could call it a sprinkler system above ground. So there's hoses with distribution nozzles for this system, and I had never seen one before. So I followed it back and found this mist-away system. It's a bug spray, or it's a bug spray. It's a bug repellent in the ground and discharges into the grass area.
Now, just for clarity, can I have slide 43? Is that a photo you took?
Yes,
What is that of?
that's the nomenclature label on the system itself.
Okay. Can I have slide 42? What do you see there?
That's the mist-away system. It's an AC-powered system. The tank you see there would be the product that's dispersed along the grass. And my concern here was if the product was ignitable, a liquid that could have contributed to a spread or cause of a fire ignition. And that's what I was looking for, to include or eliminate that as to why this fire spread the way it did.
Okay, did you make any observations or do anything to determine whether or not, or how much liquid was potentially actually in the containers?
I did. This tank was empty, and that's the only mist-away system I located in the home, on the property.
Okay, now, you also said you did some investigation as to like what it was and what type of liquid would be involved, correct?
I did.
And how did you go about doing that?
I searched the mist-away system. I found out what products were in it. I do have them if you want me to read them. They're very big words, chemical. But all of them, what's known as the material safety data sheets, I located those for each product. A lot of it is water, and there's small percentages of product for infestation of bugs or eliminating bugs. And there's nothing ignitable, there's no flammable or combustible liquid in this particular product.
Okay. So you note that and you move on? I mean, you note
Yes.
that information and you move on
Yes.
with your investigation?
Yes.
Now, was there any electrical in the area of the gas meter or the window to the basement outside?
No.
Okay. Now, is that something that you would consider as part of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. Did you locate any type of discarded smoking materials, cigars, cigarettes, anything else out there?
I did not. I cleared all the vegetation that was there in the first couple of photos very gently. And I looked through there looking for any smoking materials that could have caused or contributed to the cause of the fire, which met with negative results.
Because we saw a bunch of foliage outside the window in the original photos, correct?
Yes.
Can I have slide 44? What does that show?
That's a cleared area of the foliage where I can now identify the ground. And you'll see when I identified this mist-away system, you'll see the tubes that run here. There's some over here and some in here. So that's what drew my attention to that and made me realize there's something here that I got to identify.
Okay. Now, you could preserve it, sure. Thank you. You could preserve it, thank you.
44.1.
Mr. Lightbody, if you could just hit that on do.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Now, I want to ask you about whether or not you needed to take any measurements or anything outside of that window well.
I did. I took measurements of the window well, as well as the size of the window that enters that basement.
Why do you do that?
To determine, the area and the volume of air that could get into that particular window. And I later looked at another window, and this particular window opens from the top in. So generally, I think that's made for break-ins, where you'd have to climb in the window, go over in the well over the window. So it's a security type window, in my opinion.
Now, just briefly, have slide 45. Is that just a photo showing the measurements that you're taking?
Yes.
And 46, you recognize that?
Yes, it's the windowsill, and as we have this photo up here, this is what I was referring to, the underside of the windowsill melting because it was being attacked by fire from below. The window is 16 inches from the well.
Now, at some point, do you continue your investigation into the interior of the home?
I do.
And why do you do that?
Now I want a couple reasons. One, you want to document the damage, and you want to find if there's any other areas of the home that need to be addressed. Right now, I have two unusual fire patterns that are not connected. Right now, in my mind, the first fire pattern at the garage door is not connected. It was caused by this fire. So the verbiage would be, there's two separate points of origin right now, is in my consideration, my hypothesis, with no natural fire communication to the two. In other words, this one didn't cause the one at the garage, and the one in the garage did not cause this one.
And you want to go inside and continue to ensure that that hypothesis is ultimately where you're going to land. Is that accurate? So how do you enter the home?
Through the front main entrance.
I'm just, for purposes of just understanding how you did this, we'll run through this, but can I have slide 49?
Can I just correct one thing? I said it was 16 inches. I apologize. It was 4 foot 5 inches from the ground. Couldn't do the math that fast.
53 inches. Is that it? 53 inches? 4 feet, 5 inches?
Okay, yes.
Is that the door you entered to the home?
It is. That's the front main entrance that fronts Tilton Avenue.
Now, you enter a lot of homes. Is that accurate as far as your work?
I do.
Okay. Now, do you do it, and I know every house is different, but do you try to do it in a similar manner each time?
I do every fire investigation I do consistent, yes.
Okay. And what's the consistency that you use?
I do the exterior of the property. I document those fire patterns. Then I enter the home. As you noticed, I did it clockwise around the house. Unless there's an obstruction where I can't do that, I do that every time, and I've done over 3,000 investigations. In this particular case, I enter the front main entrance, and I photograph the door I walk through, and then I do systematically clockwise photographs of every single room of the home.
Okay, so I'm going to go to slide 51. please. You recognize that?
Yeah.
What's that show?
That's after I entered the home. I did an overall photograph of the door that I came through, and you'll see this double door closet is in the north wall of the hall of the foyerway.
Okay. Now, beyond that yellow wall, is there another room?
There is. There's a almost like a formal living room or a living room type.
Okay. Can I have slide
There's
52?
things in there.
Can I have slide 52?
There it is. Yeah.
Is that the room you were discussing?
Yes.
Okay. And now, when you're walking through these rooms, are you looking to see if you can observe any fire damage, soot, smoke, anything like that?
So I'm looking for that in addition to habits of the occupants. So if I suspected smoking, and I'm further buttressing the whether anybody in the home smokes, I didn't find anything like that as well.
Okay. Can I have slide 53, please? What do we see here?
This is taken from, I believe it's a dining room facing the kitchen, facing north.
Now, north through that door leads to...
Laundry room and a bathroom.
Can I have slide 54, please? What do we see here?
An overall view of the kitchen, which shows the Viking stove and a table. And this particular doorway we just talked about leads to the garage and the bathroom and the laundry room.
I have slide 55, please. Now, you take a photo of the Viking range, correct?
Yes.
Why is that?
It shows devices and their type of fuel. In this particular case, we were going to test all of the appliances that use natural gas. And in this case, the Viking stove does use natural gas. And again, we're going to look for any leaks or any problems with the piping that may have contributed to the cause and or spread of this fire.
Okay. Can I have slide 57? We're continuing to where here?
This is clockwise. You see the stove in the lower left corner here. I'm facing now south, and this hallway leads into the, I believe, the dining room and then the living room, first floor where the fire penetrated. That would be the south end of the home, first floor.
In slide 58, turn back in the other direction, correct?
Yes,
Showing what?
the garage entry door, and then I go to the left.
Can I have slide 59, please?
It's the laundry room, which is a gas dryer, and the bathroom.
Now, those gas dryers would be something that ultimately you would evaluate during the course of your investigation?
Yes, I took photographs of that and behind it.
Okay. And then we're moving to that dining room. I'm going to show you slide 60. Recognize that?
Yes.
What's that show?
I'm taking a photograph from the living room on the south side where the fire penetrated those two windows, facing north. That's the dining room. And you can see we start to develop and see smoke conditions and some heat conditions around the electrical switch, the outlet down here, and then across the top here. And then you see the development of smoke, which is now into the home.
60.1.
And from there, can I have slide 63? What do we see there, Mr. Lightbody?
I stepped back to take this photo just to show the communication of fire through the windows, and if you notice, they're still boarded. Fire came through the upper portion of the windows and then continued this way, and then at some point, fire suppression forces, the fire department, came in and stopped the fire spread on the interior side.
So based upon the analysis that you're doing, the observations, you think that the fire would have continued to spread had it not been for suppression efforts?
Absolutely.
And is that area there where we're looking at the transition from living room to dining room, that's the approximate area where you believe the fire stops on the first floor interior?
Yes. You had extensive heat. You can see that the paint in the header above those windows, as well as the ceiling moving this way, had begun to bubble and burn off and drop.
Can I just have slide 67, please?
Just print that, it's at 63.1.
Can you tell us what you see?
So I'm continuing through the living room clockwise, and you can see the other side of the window, the south window, which is right here. That's the south window. And we do have pretty good soot and heat here, but not as extensive to the window on the north. So you can see a line of demarcation here of where the heat and smoke hits the ceiling here, it begins to roll down, and then once it fills this cavity, it starts to bank down and creates this line of demarcation of smoke. You have a clean area here, and you have a sooted area here, right?
67.1.
Now, was there a point in time, obviously, during your investigation where the boards, the plywood were taken off the backside of that living room window?
Yes.
Okay, and at any point, did you take a photograph in a downward direction?
I did. I looked out that window and looked down, and that window is directly above the window well.
Can I have slide,
First floor window's directly above the window well.
can I have slide 66? You don't do that. You could undo those.
Undo that?
Now, just to be clear, how is this picture taken?
I was looking out the window and I photographed down.
Okay.
You can see the window well here, and then here's the gas piping to the gas meter.
66.1.
Now, you testified earlier that you had identified areas where the fire penetrated the rear of the home into the interior, correct?
Yes.
Now, based upon observations that you make in that living room, are you confirming what you saw outside as far as that goes?
Yes, I'm confirming the fire pattern that comes into the window. You see, these are vinyl windows, so vinyl windows burn, right? So the fire patterns continue in here. You can see the window sash is burned, and it continues through this window that's glass and into the home. Primarily at a higher level because, again, fire's still rising.
Now,
66.2.
now, do you at some point continue your investigation to the upstairs of the home?
I do.
What do you find, generally speaking, upstairs?
I photographed all of the rooms upstairs, the bedrooms. As I accessed the second floor, I was told through interviews that Mr. Caneiro's bedroom was the first bedroom center of the house on the left, and directly in front of the hallway is one of the daughter's bedrooms, and to the right is another daughter's bedroom.
Did you inspect and photograph each one of the bedrooms that are on the second floor?
I did.
So the first one, you come up the stairs, you make a left. First door is, you were told, Mr. Caneiro's bedroom.
Yes,
And then one of his daughters was the next.
straight ahead.
Okay. And then across the hall, going east, was there another bedroom?
There was, to the right, there was a bedroom on the northeast corner, and then you came back the other way, there was the fourth bedroom, I think, was the master bedroom.
Okay. Now, as far as Mr. Caneiro's bedroom, can you tell us about any observations of fire damage you saw there?
No fire damage.
How about the next, and just to be clear, let me just go, slide 73. Is that, whose bedroom is that?
I believe that's Mr. Caneiro's.
And the next bedroom, we're going to go to slide 78. You recognize that?
I do.
Okay, and what's that show?
It's the bedroom, one of the daughters on the northeast west corner of the home.
And did you make any observations of significant smoke or fire damage?
There's no smoke or fire damage, and I contribute that to I believe the bedroom door is closed at the time as well.
I'm going to go to next bedroom, slide 84. You recognize what that is?
Yes, another one of the daughter's bedrooms. This is on the northeast corner of the home, second floor.
That. And then it's fair to say, once you examine that that third bedroom, you go out to the hallway again?
I do. I turn back around and face the south.
Okay. Can I have slide 91? What do we see in that photo?
So basically, I'm standing at that same doorway facing south, and here is a bathroom, and this is the master bedroom, where Mrs. Caneiro stayed.
Now, can you talk about your examination of the master bedroom?
Yes.
Was that the area that you had determined had the most fire damage on the second floor?
Yes.
Was there specific parts of it that had more damage than others?
The master bathroom, where the fire penetrated through the window we spoke about earlier, as well as there is fire damage in the attic and the master bedroom closet, where the fire penetrated into the soffit and then burned in that area against the soffit.
Okay. Can I have slide 98?
91.1.
What are we looking at here?
This is a view of the, I believe it's the master bathroom.
And you make, or can you see evidence of fire smoke damage there?
Yes, in the ceiling, and soot damage within the bathroom.
Can I have slide 99, please? What are we looking at there?
It's the master bathroom window. You can see where the fire came in this area and caused damage to this. Remember what we said, most extensive damage moving away or intact. So the fires, as you face that from the outside, this is facing down this way is the window well. So that fire from the inside is burning from right to left. As we face it from outside, it's burning from the window well right, causing this damage.
$99.1.
Thank you. Can I have slide 30, just very briefly? When we look at the windows on the exterior, the rear of the home, the window you're just discussing there's three windows up top. Which window are we talking about?
This window here. That's the master bathroom window. And you can see the fire pattern coming this way and getting into that window, and it continues along the soffit. And the fire department stopped it from communicating laterally at that point.
And again, we talked about earlier, but that leads ultimately out over the garage, correct?
This does?
The progression goes
Yes.
up through the attic and out that vent, correct?
Yes, heat and smoke.
Now,
0.1.
I want to show the slide 103. What are we looking at here?
It's a view into the master bedroom closet from the doorway. Up in here, you can see the trim and fire damage in the corner. Obviously, right outside on the other side of that wall is the soffit where the fire penetrated.
Now, did you confirm anything you had learned previously from the fire patterns in the master bedroom, closet, and bathroom?
I was confirming that the fire did penetrate into that area, and I confirmed that those areas of fire damage are caused by the fire within the window well on the exterior of the house.
Now, at some point, do you go down and do an examination in the basement?
I do.
Okay. And where specifically did you go in the basement?
So I've documented the entire basement, and, prior to doing all this, we also document all the utilities, so that was done as well. Documenting the entire basement through photographs, and most of the fire damage in the basement was directly in line with the window well and it communicated left and right within the basement. And when we see photographs later, I'll explain how it was in the cavity, the joist cavity, which allowed it to communicate to the north.
Now, the basement, was it partially finished? What did you encounter?
It was a partially finished basement, yes.
Now, your examination of the finished part, what did that reveal as far as the extensiveness of the fire smoke damage?
There's moderate smoke damage there. There was not a whole lot of fire. There was no fire damage, but there was smoke damage throughout, very lightly.
And did your systematic examination lead you to a specific area of the basement?
Yes.
Where was that?
It would have been on the southeast corner of the basement.
Okay. And now, you pointed out your observations on the outside of the house, but are you drawn to that location based upon what you see when you actually go into the unfinished side of the basement?
I'm drawn to that location because of the fire damage. You'll see later there's a double set of doors. This basement had a nice wall that separated the finished portion in what appeared to be storage and maybe a little shop area. Once you go through those doors, there's extensive fire damage right in front of me because I'm in line with that basement window.
Okay. Can I have slide 111, please?
103.1 on the previous picture.
Now, do you recognize that photo, sir?
I do.
What's that show?
I'm standing in the finished portion of the basement. These double doors are here. You can see that, the opening. I photograph, and this is, again, I'm documenting, I'm headed toward the utilities, but you can see the plywood is still intact, and there's extensive fire damage. Here's the window, and all of this fire damage is located in here. You can see there's storage and rack storage, metal rack storage that contained combustible materials, ordinary combustibles, wood, cloth, papers, stuff like that.
Now, you drew sort of what's somewhere between a U and a V, and why'd you do that?
Just to show the amount of damage and how it's spread left and right. There's a more predominant V pattern here as you look at it, and it goes behind that shelf in line with this window.
Now, sir, you talk about how fire burns up and out, and you talk about, V or U patterns when you were making your observations outside. Why would there be a V or U pattern inside the basement?
There's two potential reasons for that. One, the fire penetrates that basement window and ignites all the materials that are on these shelves, and it drops down and burns back up. Remember, things can burn, drop down, and burn back up. As an example, if the fire were here, across there, and burned this screen is going to fail at the top because that's where all the heat is. It'll fall back down, and if it continues burning, it's going to burn back up. That'll give me another V pattern. So that could be the case here, or if this is later was determined to be intentionally set fire with the use of ignitable liquid, it could have been poured inside the basement as well.
111.1.
Can I have slide 115, please? What do we see here?
This is a close-up of the photo you just observed. A lot of debris on the floor, which was later cleared by myself and one of my partners, the engineer. And we removed the shelf to expose the backside of the wall system. Now what you'll notice, ladies and gentlemen, is styrofoam panels. It's insulation, it's glued to the block. Okay, so you have styrofoam panel intact here. I later learned a piece of furniture was there during the fire, which provides that protected area. And then on the other side, once we remove this, you'll see that all of the styrofoam insulation that was behind there is consumed. And then as you move to the north, it becomes intact and identifiable again.
Now, we're focusing on this area of the basement, but did you conduct a systematic assessment of all the fire damage in the unfinished area of the basement?
I did.
And I think you may have said earlier, but oftentimes you look to go to areas of least amount of damage to most amount of damage. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And is that something that you undertook in in this home?
Yes, we're looking at photos before I even started to examine this area. I did this later.
Okay, we can preserve that.
115.1.
Can I have slide 116, please? And you talked about a V pattern earlier, a better V pattern earlier, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, that's a photo you took and a slide or an image that you created, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what is that showing there?
It shows the same shelving unit, but what I identified as a V pattern in that area. You'll see that you have extensive fire damage to all of the contents from the first, second, and third shelf all the way across. But as we move to the north, although it's fire damaged extensively, you'll see later that the materials in the tubs themselves become intact and identifiable. So my fire is isolated in this area and displays what I identified as a V pattern, a potential point of origin, or again, if there's ignitable liquid poured through the window, used to facilitate the spread of intention set fire, that could also be a reason for that.
Now, when you talk about potentially ignitable liquids, do you do anything in that regard?
I did. I delayered this whole area. What that means is I shoveled it, I picked through it with a hoe and a shovel, hands and knees, looking for any other heat sources and or other materials, and we removed this shelf, and then I took samples of the debris at the base of these shelves behind it.
And what ultimately happens with those samples?
I took 2 samples. I was looking for the potential to have ignitable liquid introduced to this area and identified in the debris by Fast Labs, who's located in Georgia. I sent those materials to them, and they sent it back to me.
Now, was there any positive results for the presence of ignitable liquids?
Not in those containers.
Does that end your investigation?
No. No.
Now, I wanted to ask you about, I think you talked about it earlier, but ruling out other potential causes. Is that something that you did throughout the home, but also specifically in this area?
Yes.
And what were you doing in that regard?
I was looking for electrical outlets or devices in this area on the floor, or any type of materials that are heat sources within the shelving units. I combed through all that debris on my hands and knees and shoveled it out of the way and continued. There were no electrical or mechanical devices that could have caused or contributed to the cause of this fire or this damage here, with the exception of spread. Above this window to the right is the gas lines that enter through the natural gas meter, through the foundation wall.
Could I have slide 120?
116.1.
You recognize what we're looking at?
I do.
What does that show?
This is the natural gas piping that came through the east wall. If you remember the gas meter, the gas comes into the meter on the left. It's discharged through the meter to the home, through the wall system. You have iron pipe coming through the wall here, and it transitions to what's called CSST pipe, corrugated stainless steel tubing. And those are 2 gas lines that run north to a gas manifold, gas distribution manifold. And you'll see pictures of that later. So one of my concerns, ladies and gentlemen, were as to whether, again, we're still looking for leaks in this, any connection that may have a leak. If I have a leak here and it finds an ignition source and comes back here, that could be an accidental fire, a reason for an accidental fire. So we pressurized all those gas lines to include the CSST, the manifold, and the devices to determine the leaks, if there were leaks.
When you say we, you're talking about the engineers that
The
you
2
brought.
engineers and myself, that would be the we all day, yes.
We preserve that.
120.1.
Thank you. Slide 126. What do we see here, sir?
This is later in the investigation, when we did our observations and did our delayering. You'll notice that all of the debris that was on the floor here has been removed, and Up here, we tagged and identified each CSST tube and each T-fitting that came through the wall system, and then we followed it back to the manifold.
Okay. And when we talk about different lines of natural gas that kind of spread out from that manifold, what are they for? Did you determine what they were for in this particular house?
Yes.
And what were they for?
So on the manifold itself, you'll see later, there's 8 different discharges. So the 2 gas lines come into a common discharge, and then we tee out. So there's, out of the 8, 6 were in use that we identified there, and I believe we identified them as being the barbecue, the gas stove, the Navion water heater, the HVAC system, the heater. How many is that? 4. And then I think we had the Generac generator and the outside light. There was a gas-fired outside light. And the other 2 were capped and shut off.
Okay. Now, you talk about pressurizing these lines, right?
Yes.
Could you just tell us why you do it and ultimately what you were able to determine based upon doing that testing?
So with the assistance of the engineers, we took compressed nitrogen. We went out to the barbecue and we pressurized the barbecue, and then we took the barbecue line and pressurized the whole system backwards, which pushed gas through every pipe or distribution pipe and appliance. We had the pressurization to those appliances. We did discover 2 leaks. One was very minor at the barbecue, and one was very minor at this connection, one of these connections here. And that was considered and contributed to the fact that the fire came through the window and attacked what's known as pipe dope, or the putty used to seal those threaded connections. And it's our opinion that the pipe dope melted out and resulted in a minor leak. But certainly not enough to quantify or qualify the fire damage that's here, or to spread throughout the basement and result in an ignition of fugitive gas.
Based upon the testing that you did with your team, were you satisfied that the natural gas line was not the cause of the fire?
It was not the cause of the fire, nor was it leaking prior to the fire.
126.1.
Now, as a result of your investigation, or towards the end of your investigation, we talk about ruling out accidental causes, correct?
Yes.
And when we talk about that, were you able to make any determinations with respect to the electrical supply to the home?
Yes.
Okay. And was there any evidence to indicate that the electric supply had anything to do with the starting of this fire?
There was not.
Now, the natural gas you've already said, correct?
Correct.
Were there any other potential accidental causes that you considered that, led you away from the suspicious nature of this fire?
I consider natural causes, that being lightning. There was no lightning, no earthquakes or anything like that. Smoking material we talked about. Incense and candles were not known to be outside, so they were not outside. So we considered any potential heat sources that could have been there, and we eliminated all of the accidental heat sources that could have been included.
Now, that process you're just discussing, is that part of testing that hypothesis that you've kind of come up with along the way?
Yes.
And based upon that, do you do any other final steps in the process?
So the testing the hypothesis is either conducted personally or known testing. Ignitable liquid, this open flame can be ignited by, ignitable liquid. So that's a proven fact, so we don't have to test anything. So the consideration here is, at the conclusion of this, I determined there are 2 separate points of origin at this home. One that originates on the exterior of the home at the window well and communicates, as we spoke, up and out and into the house at 4 different points. The second one was located at the garage door, which showed fire damage, and there was nothing there that would have caused or contributed to the cause of this fire that I observed.
Now, so with respect to the southeast area or point of origin on the backside of the home, okay? Were you able to determine what the cause of that fire was?
It's an incendiary fire purposely set with the use of ignitable liquid, in my opinion.
And as far as that second area of origin, the one that we looked at near the left side garage bay, what was your opinion as to the cause of that fire?
Well, certainly it was an unusual pattern that I saw. However, I didn't see any containers or anything there. But through interviews with the local authority, I did learn that at one point there was a gasoline container there that had burned. So there was no accidental causes. I determined that to be a second point of fire origin.
Now, the conclusions and the investigative steps and the conclusions that you've just talked about with respect to 2 areas of origin or 2 points of origin and the fact that this was an incendiary fire are your opinions to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. One more time. Ross? Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You said that you described the fire near the garage as a second point of origin, right? You'd also describe that as an intentionally set fire?
Yes.
And obviously the fact that there was a gas can, what is now known to you that there's a gas can located very close in proximity to that fire origin would contribute to that conclusion. Would that be fair to say?
As my understanding is that, yes, there was a burning gas can there, yes.
So with the fire that's located in the window well to the basement, so that I understand your conclusion, that window well is what you've determined to be the point of origin for that fire.
Yes,
And that was an intentionally set fire.
in my opinion.
And that fire was set with the help of ignitable fluids,
I believe it to be true, yes.
like gasoline.
Ignitable liquid, yes, probably gasoline.
The fire at the garage is also an intentionally set fire,
Yes,
and also set with the help of ignitable fluids.
based on the fact that I was told there was a gasoline container burning there, yes.
Okay. Were you also informed about a car that was parked nearby that fire origin at the garage?
Yes,
And you were told that there were burn marks on the hood of the car?
yes,
And were you shown photos of the burn marks on the car?
I was not.
Okay. You were told that there was surveillance video of these fires?
My understanding is yes.
Okay. And were you given the opportunity to review that surveillance video?
I did not.
Did you ask to review the surveillance video?
No, I had sent OPA requests or FOIA requests for all the reports and any information. However, based on the circumstances surrounding the event, they were denied.
Was there a Mr. Chuburian that you talked to as part of this?
Fire Marshal Tiberian, yes.
And were you told about those surveillance videos?
I was
What they
told
showed
Yes.
in general?
A large flash at the back of the house, the southeast side, and then an additional fire near the garage.
Have you investigated fires in the past where you've had the ability to view surveillance video of the fires?
Yes.
And does it make a difference to you in viewing those videos, as far as your conclusions are concerned, whether the fires begin slowly and build slowly, or whether the fires begin with more of an eruptive force? Is that distinction important for you?
It could be, yes.
And why would that be potentially important?
If I recall the conversation with Fire Marshal Tiberian, he said there was a large flash which rapidly died down
Okay.
on the east side of the house.
And a large flash which rapidly dies down would be indicative of what?
It's consistent with a rapid and intense buildup of heat at ignition of ignitable liquid.
So in just ordinary terms, it's consistent with a fire being set by gasoline.
Yes, ignitable liquid, whatever would be provide that ultra rapid. For example, gasoline has a flash point of negative 45 degrees. So what does that mean to you? That means that gasoline at negative 45 degrees will provide push-off vapor enough to ignite. It won't sustain combustion without an external heat source. So so when you light that, it's an ultra-rapid ignition. Now, in comparative value, kerosene, that's known as a flammable liquid. Kerosene is a combustible liquid. Kerosene has a flash point of over 100 degrees. The kerosene is 145 degrees flash point. That's why oftentimes you have to have, your oil heaters have to have a very fine dispersement of that oil in order to burn. So if it's used with maybe old gas or kerosene, it would be a slower development and not as a large flash.
Right.
But like gasoline that you got from the gas station, you have to be more careful with because that's highly combustible.
It's highly flammable.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm using the wrong words.
No, that's fine. I'm not trying to insult you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But it's ultra rapid, I think.
Ultra rapid, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if we were looking at a photo of the inside of the house. I think we were in like the kitchen to dining room area. You were looking at towards the origin of fire at the window well, and we saw some damage to the outlets in the house, the light switch. Now, was that electrical, or was that smoke damage from coming out from outside the house in to the outlets?
Smoke damage from entering into the wall system. And again, we're pressurized with smoke, right? We saw it come out the gable vent. The same thing happens in void spaces and walls. Once we penetrated that wall in the lower level and got the smoke and soot into the interior of that wall, again, it will push out, it seeks the path of least resistance. And in that case, it's the outlets and the switches.
When you were talking about that, the prosecutor asked you, I think, whether you would have expected without intervention from fire personnel for this fire to continue. And I think your testimony was that you would have expected without intervention the fire would have continued.
I would have.
And that means the fire would have continued to spread throughout other parts of the house.
To progress, yes.
And you're aware that, well, I shouldn't say quick or slow because I don't know what that is in your terms, but there was obviously a response of fire personnel to the location.
Correct.
And they at least responded to the scene very shortly after the fire was reported. That's your understanding?
Yes.
And the fire was reported very shortly after it began. That's also your understanding?
Yes.
But if, let's say, nobody had been home and no one had called and there wasn't an alarm for the fire to bring fire personnel there, this fire would have continued to engulf the house.
In my opinion, yes.
And obviously the damage that you've identified for this here, all of that had a chance, an opportunity to take place before fire personnel, who responded rapidly, were able to suppress the fire, right?
Correct.
Are you familiar with a term called alligator charring?
Yeah.
Okay. And does that have to do with the burn impressions on wood, or what does that mean?
Alligator charring is a verb, or it's a description of charring of wood that's been debunked in the 70s, early 80s. They no longer identify alligator charring. And what they meant back then was just simply that the wood developed cracks and formulated bridges, if you will, consistent with alligator skin. So that particular term is no longer recognized or identified.
Okay.
Some people would identify it back then as being an ultra-rapid ignition of materials causing that, and that's debunked. That's
Okay.
junk science, as they call it.
Gotcha. So that has been shown to not be scientifically sound.
Well, the description of the pattern, yes.
Understood. With the understanding that it is junk science, I just want to show you a couple of photos. I don't think you haven't had access to any of the case photos
Public thought, no.
other than what the photos you've taken?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you this. This has been marked as D403 with the prosecutor's permission.
There was no objection.
D3?
D1-403.
I'm sorry. D1403, okay.
Zoom out on this for a second. Okay. We have a little bit of glare there, but can you see that photo clearly?
Yes.
Do you see towards the upper portion of the photo there is some charring?
Yeah. Are you referring to here?
I am. With the understanding that the term alligator charring is no longer scientifically sound in your field, is that the kind of pattern that would formerly have been identified as alligator charring?
No, and I'll tell you what you're missing on this photo, sir. The char pattern is what it is. You can see it intact here, yes? But here, it's not the same as out here. And the reason why is when the fire department got inside and used an 1 3/4 hose, which flows 150 gallons a minute at 100 pounds nozzle pressure, it washed off that char when they attacked that fire.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that this would have looked different prior to the hoses being placed into the window well and turned on?
It probably would have looked consistent with what we have over here, with the dashes here.
Okay.
You see the difference? You see the difference how flush and flat that is as compared to this? You can outline that. And this is all flat.
I can see the difference, yes.
We capture that as 403.1.
Now, and I'm sorry, you didn't have an opportunity to see the burn mark on the vehicle that was near the fire by the garage, right?
I did not.
Okay. I'll just show you D1-203. Showing you D1-203. You can see the photo clearly?
I do.
Okay. Do you see the area towards the left side of the photo on the hood of the vehicle?
I do.
Okay. Would that be consistent? Have you investigated vehicle fires before?
Yes.
And when you investigate a vehicle fire, is it similar to the methods that you use to conduct the inspection of a house fire, or are they different?
They're consistent. They're each identified as a structure.
Okay. If you noticed damage to the hood of a vehicle that was consistent with fire damage, how would you proceed to investigate that?
I would obviously document this, and I would open the hood and see what's underneath it. I'm not familiar with a Porsche, whether the engine's in the front or the back, I have no idea. But I would determine whether there's any fire on the interior of that particular area that could have caused that damage on the exterior.
And if you looked under the hood and saw no damage underneath, you could conclude, I'd imagine, that fire damage on the hood must have come from an exterior source.
I would tend to suggest so, yes.
Okay. And is that damage we see in this picture, is that consistent as far as you can tell with heat or fire damage, or would it be difficult for you to tell from a single photo?
Well, single photo is very difficult for me to tell. And the distance between, I don't even know where this car is parked. I know it's parked in front of the garage. The distance between the garage and the gas can, or what that circumstance, there are a lot of variables that come into play there.
Mm-hmm. You were obviously at the house.
I was.
And you did a walkthrough of the property.
I did.
And the gas can was not there when you arrived at the house.
Correct.
But you were told it was near the garage. And I'm just going to show you. This is D1-48. You see the front grille of the vehicle we were just talking about?
Yes,
You see the gas can lying on the ground?
I do.
You see some police tape there as well, right?
Yes,
Okay. You recognize this to be the driveway area of that home, 27 Tilton Drive?
it appears to be yes.
Does that can, I mean, as far as, your opinions about origin and fire cause, does that can appear to be in close proximity to both the garage door and that vehicle?
It's in between, closer to the garage door.
So, surveillance video of a rapid ignition would be consistent with the fire having an incendiary source.
In my opinion, in this case, yes.
Okay. All right, you know what, sir? I think that's all the questions I have, so thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, I have no further questions of the witness. Thank
All right, sir, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Appreciate it.